Is this a dream come true? I have found a treasure in you. Is this for real, the love that I feel? I love you, and I always will. A dream come true, a dream come true. I have found a treasure in you. Is this for real, the love that I feel? I love you, and I always will. Just 'cause of you, mother, sweet mother of mine. Mother, you gave me happiness, much more than words can say. I pray to you that you may bless us every night and every day. Mother of mine, now I have grown, I can walk straight, all on my own. I'd like to give you what you gave to me. Mother, sweet mother of mine. Mother, sweet mother of mine. Mother, sweet mother of mine.
वक्रतुण्ड महाकाय सूर्यकोटि समप्रभा निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा। गुरु ब्रह्मा गुरु विष्णु गुरुदेवो महेश्वरः गुरु साक्षात् परब्रह्मा तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वप्रचोदयात्। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः।
I offer my humble pranams at the divine lotus feet of Bhagwan Sri Satya Sai Baba. Om Shri Sai Ram, dear brothers and sisters of the Sai family in Australia, New Zealand, Fiji and around the world, wishing all our Sai sisters and aunties a very happy and blessed Ladies' Day. Welcome to our third online Ladies Devotional Wing offering organized by our Sai sisters and aunties from ACT, Western Australia and New South Wales. Let us begin by acknowledging the First Nations people of Australia upon whose land we meet. We pay our respects to the elders past, present and emerging. We also acknowledge the traditional elders in New Zealand and Fiji. This evening, we are truly blessed to hear from our guest speaker, Sister Karuna Munshi from Prashanthi Nilayam, the Abode of Peace. Since the late 1960s, Sister Karuna Swarup Munshi grew up in a Sai-infused environment in Srinagar, Kashmir. Sister Karuna is a grateful daughter of Sai Sevadal parents. In 1980, she joined the Sri Satya Sai Institute of Higher Learning, Anantapur campus and graduated with a BA and MA in philosophy. She and her siblings and their children are alumni of the Sri Satya Sai Institute of Higher Learning. Sister Karuna is an experienced journalist and a communications expert who has held various eminent positions in India and Canada. She served in the Sai Mission in Canada for over 2 decades, serving as a secretary for the largest Sai center in the world, teaching Group 3 in SSC program and also served as a youth coordinator. She is the secretary of the Sri Satya Sai School in Canada, Toronto for 9 years till she relocated to Puttaparthi along with her family. From 2007 to 2019, Sister Karuna volunteered at Radio Sai for 12 years hosting programs, producing documentaries and contributing to content for its e-journal, Heart to Heart. Since 2017, Sister has been serving as the director of the Sri Satya Sai Vidyavahini program at Prashanthi Nilayam, an education portal for empowering rural teachers with values-integrated academic content, training and teachers' aids, all available digitally. This program serves hundreds of thousands of teachers and students across India, as it is now available nationally to anyone through the Prime Minister of India's open source education platform diksha.gov.in. Please join me in warmly welcoming Sister Karuna Munshi.
Om Shri Sai Ram. Salutations at the lotus feet of our beloved Bhagwan Sri Satya Sai Baba. My loving Sai Ram to all my dear sisters and brothers from down under. Hey mates, hope everyone's doing well in Australia. As the world prepares to celebrate the most important date in the Sai calendar, it's only appropriate that we dig a bit deeper to the source and origin of the sunrise that the world awoke to on 23rd November 1926. The brilliance of that historic day continues to fill the lives of millions with a light that sustains and nurtures us, and it guides our life path through its ups and downs. This radiance has warmed the hearts of the world far and near, including those living down under. More recently, Many of us were practically forced to fall back on that light to handle the fear that COVID-19 unleashed on all of us. And what a sunrise it was on 23rd November 1926. It happened so quietly, super silently, without any publicity or attention. However, in another town in South India, quite a distance from Puttaparthi, the seer of Pondicherry, Sri Aurobindo Ghosh, is said to have acknowledged the cosmic descent, what he described as the oceanic flood of God's light, the Krishna consciousness that had descended upon the earth, a celestial landing, if I may call it so, that Sri Aurobindo Ghosh and the spiritual masters everywhere were praying for. With no time, this epochal light that rose from Prashantinilium could not be missed. And in time to come, that sunrise will segment the history of the Golden Age as before and after 23rd November 1926, as also before and after Mahasamadhi. Such is the gravitas of the birth of a baby boy who was born in obscurity, if not in a manger, then in a modest village dwelling, possibly a humble hut. And so effulgent was the birth that happened in a sleepy, remote and backward town at that time in Rayalaseema area of Andhra Pradesh, that within a few years, it forced governments and intelligence agencies around the world to take notice. I don't know if you know that several decades later, the American spy network CIA even snooped on the happenings in this small hamlet in South India, exploring exactly how a short and unusual looking person could be so influential to attract and unite harmoniously people from different parts of the globe, from different religions and cultural backgrounds. They described his teachings as an antidote to religious divide, a threat, bold and underscored, a threat to divisive politics of this country, and a threat to a political environment based on differences and divisions. They concluded that Sri Sathya Sai Baba had the power to unite the world into one by motivating his followers to overcome boundaries and restrictions. Clearly, they saw a new religion emerging from a little ashram in India, the religion of love. In a world torn by strife, how refreshing is that to hear, and possibly unsettling for those who thrive on hate and war and division. The CIA reports, and I quote, "Since Sai Baba's message supports the concept of harmonious, multi-religious, multi-ethnic India, it has the potential to counterbalance the appeal of religious chauvinists and ethnic separatists." I'll read that for you. I have it right here. Since Sai Baba's message supports the concept of a harmonious, multi-religious, multi-ethnic India, it has the potential to counterbalance the appeal of religious chauvinists and ethnic separatists. Unquote. So let us come back to the glorious sunrise of 23rd November 1926 and the daily phenomena of the Mr. Golden Sun. The sunrise, since forever, the sun rises and sets with its own clockwise position. Who created it? Who created this precision or this heavenly body? How is it set to such a perfect rhythm and order, and how does it continue to govern the lives, the seasons, the cycles, and how does it guarantee our survival on Earth? What is the origin of the universe? I know these are questions of astronomy and philosophy, and all the same, they presuppose that if such a phenomenon occurs daily, someone has set it up. If the universe was an outcome of random series of celestial accidents and cosmic events, then the clockwise precision of its functioning would not point to the intelligent design that we see in nature, creation, the universe, and its functioning. All creation is supposed to function in sync with the rhythm of the universe. And while most forms of life do, there is one wonky character in creation story that every now and then tends to go awry in its behavior. The world around us is a breathing, living organism. And we humans are just one of the many cells in it. In fact, the most important cell. But if ever so often, most of the important cells in a healthy organism of creation start one by one to turn rogue, turn self-destructive, start attacking themselves and other healthy cells randomly, and our creation suffers from an imbalance, we know we are going to have some very far-reaching and grave consequences. The current pandemic, all the constantly we hear of these environmental disaster, climate change, these are physical manifestations of such a suicidal tendency by some cells in creation that can sometimes easily be identified as a species called the Homo sapiens. To remedy this catastrophic situation, every several thousands of years apart, every few centuries or millennia, humanity needs a huge booster shot to improve its immunity. That is why great descents happen when higher souls come down to heal us, to help us cure from the inflammation of our egos and pride, which are caused because of our vanity and our insatiable greed. Many such descents have been recorded throughout history, some recorded in mainstream narratives and cultures, and others perhaps not so prominently. But the light keeps coming down in varying measure as per the need. The voltage is adjusted according to the layers of darkness. Great masters, Jesus the Christ, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, Zoroastra, Lao Tzu, Confucius, Buddha, Guru Nanak, Rama, Krishna, Shirdi Baba, each one of them came at a different time, a different place to preach the same thing: love, peace, compassion, according to the need of the moment in history. Generally, the need is for common sense and all its accompanying virtues that seem to have fled humanity or Homo sapiens at that point in time. And most recently, a descent so powerful occurred that it galvanized human aspirations at all levels, with all their elemental nuances, to aspire for something unimaginable till now. An idea so bold that it blows in the face of most organized belief systems, particularly their idea of the supreme Godhead being a distant heavenly being with a halo, a beard, a certain image, far, far away in heaven, or only in certain places or locations, such as places of worship. Instead, our new kid on the block spoke from a place of great wisdom, from a place of conviction and confidence when he declared he was God. If this was not blasphemous enough, he went on to say that we all, that is, each one of us, is also divine. We are all God. Something so empowering, so unsettling, so hard to wrap one's wits about because it challenged conventional wisdom. He didn't stop there. He went to start a new dictionary, a new spelling bee, if you will. He spelled God as, you think G-O-D, right? God, he spelled as L-O-V-E. God is love, and love is God, he claimed. And in doing so, he demystified the complex concept of God for each according to their own level of comprehension, to make it easy according to their level of comprehension, their cultural or spiritual tradition. This new kid on the block grew up to be a charmer of human hearts who won over millions from different parts of the world with his unique and this potent crystal ball, his love for everyone and everything in creation, men and women of all races, colors, religion, affinities, all animals, nature, environment, plants, all creation in its totality. He just exuded love from every cell of his majestic being. Yet he was so relatable and unusually, unconventionally attractive in his form. He sowed the seed of love, or God, at all levels in the hearts of people. And these he did as massive humanitarian projects for reforming the human crisis that was prevalent on the planet at that time, whether it was in the healthcare sector, potable water, the Indian education system. Today, the legacies of his love continue to live and thrive even after Mahasamadhi. after the Mahasamadhi of somebody so powerful and pure, the Paripurna avatar of the Kali age, His Divine Worship, Bhagwan Sri Satya Sai Baba. As much as all of us related to him as our nearest and dearest one, he was not of this world, so to speak. We would be failing in our devotion if we did not focus on where he came from. What shuttle or landing vehicle did he use to land here in the first place? If you see, in 1926, over 2 billion people inhabited the planet. How did he make that choice, that conscious choice that he wanted to land here, and how? I believe it was in one of those early years when the Dashera celebration, the Vedapurusha Yagna was about to begin. At that time, Swami was a young man. Bhagwan Sri Satya Sai Baba was a young adult. And a very scholarly Shastri by the name of Sharma, he was keenly observing the telling ways, yet the simple and profound teachings that this young man who had declared himself as Sri Satya Sai Baba, giving himself what a big title, what degree of self-belief he was professing. He observed him. He paid attention to his teachers, and he saw nothing but the resonance of pure Advaita and Sanatan Dharma there. So there was a question that was gnawing at the heart of this Vedic Pandit, and he needed a confirmation. He wanted to settle his hunch once and for all. And during this Dashera celebration, one day when an opportunity arose, he just couldn't hold himself back. Rather reverentially, and with a lot of reservation, he approached Swami and he asked Bhagwan about his advent. The question was very pointed. He asked Bhagwan, was your birth a prasava or was it a pravesha? Which means, were you begotten or did you enter or descend? Now, Mother Ishwaramba, at that time, when he asked this question, Baba looked at his mother who was nearby and he asked his mother of the physical form, Srimati Ishwaramba, to narrate the episode that happened just about in the month of February 1926, when she had gone to the village well to draw some water. And this episode resonated of a complete biblical analogy of an immaculate conception, I beg your pardon. And mother described that she went with the village women to draw water from the village well. Then all of a sudden, she noticed this light in the sky and this orb of light, this brilliance kept coming towards her and it kind of hit her being and she passed out. She fainted. And when she came back into being, she felt very different and she went about her work and soon she discovered she was expecting a child. Now, this vehicle, the chosen mother, the person out of over 2 billion people who was selected by Supreme Consciousness as an ideal vehicle to make the descent from highest heavens upon earth, her life is hardly celebrated adequately, hardly studied. But I'm absolutely confident in centuries to come, she will be the role model for restoring the balance in nature in Mother Earth. And she, the Blessed Mother Srimati Ishwaramba, will be worshipped as a goddess. She has left us so, in her modest and simple ways, she has left us so very many lessons to learn from her life. And I believe these can be great steps towards the journey, towards our journey in life. And they apply to everyone, not only to women, but also to men. Because on the spiritual path, there are no divisions of gender. Although the roles we play as women are definitely, in my opinion, far more challenging than those of us who are born in male bodies. Please allow me to justify this tall claim. Now, as mothers, most of us have a very hard time dealing with teenage angst. Ishwaramba is an epitome of acceptance. When her 14-year-old declared that he had a mission to fulfill, he threw his bag, he had denounced the world and said he has his work to do. And his beleaguered elder brother and sister-in-law sent a telegram to his mother to come and check out this boy. What drama is he throwing? What tantrums is he coming up with? Like all of us, she had to deal with his teenage angst. And she went to the bungalow of Anjaleyu, the excise inspector, in a place called Urvakonda, not far from Puttaparthi. When she reached there, he described her as Maya, or illusion has come. Yet, for her, the first thought was, has he eaten anything? She was under tremendous social pressure to treat his behavior as a mental health issue. She actually succumbed to some extent when she took him to an exorcist to fix him, to repair his head so that he becomes what was deemed to be normal. Yet, she was wise enough to see through it and realize this child of mine, among several others, is very unique and special. And I have to honor and accept his uniqueness and allow him to be his own person. As a mother, what a progressive thought process and what a high level of evolution Mother Ishwaramba demonstrated. Let me fast forward to the trip that Bhagwan took to Africa in 1968, late June, early July. Ishwaramba was the quintessential Indian mom. She heard from different people that Swami is planning a visit to Africa. And she also heard from people that there were many wild animals in Africa. She went running to one of the elders and said, please dissuade him, tell him not to undertake, it's fraught with danger. So then if somebody said, Amma, why do you worry? One of the elders, why do you worry about it? He will be accompanied by others. She said, no, he doesn't know the ways of the wildlife. Please, I don't want my son to go. I was actually reading a joke on young people can relate subtle curry traits about all Indian parents. Imagine the worst will happen to their children if they go on a trip. So like most Indian parents, Ishwaramba was really scared. And then someone said that, Amma, why do you worry? How can anything harm Baba? He's God. So she said, Abba, you may know he's God, I may know he's God, but do the wildlife in Africa know this is God and they should not harm him? Just that maternal instinct, it's there in every mom who is letting go of her child into an uncharted territory. Yet, when she went before this trip to Mumbai with Swami, and she stayed with the Swami, put up those who were accompanying him, the lady stayed with the very eminent Sai devotee family, the Java family. And when mother stayed with them, she was like one of them. She was such an easy peasy, easy to blend and get along person. And when she saw how sorted and cultured the ladies in the Java family were, because many of them were highly educated, she sort of realized, my God, women's education is such a noteworthy cause to pursue. And guess what happened right after Bhagwan came back from that major conference in Dharmashetra, that visit to Mumbai, and the visit to Africa, the continent of Africa. Soon after, the Anantapur College, the first college, the forerunner to the 4-campus university now known the world over as the Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning, that is the university at her suggestion and nudge Swami inaugurated. Obviously, the plan was already there in the cosmic mind, but the Divine Mother played her part. This is a lady who could not read or write or ever went to school. She had no formal education, and she proved that wisdom and a degree are not interconnected. They can be exclusive. So without that literacy numeracy advantage, she had enough foresight and wisdom to realize the value of educating women, because every time a woman is well educated, an entire family benefits. So that is the wisdom that Mother Ishwaramba had. She was also a woman who had the ability, the maturity to prioritize and balance, because she had several other responsibilities. She was a wife, she was a daughter-in-law, she was a sister-in-law, and she was a mother to several other children who had regular mundane needs like you and I, and she had to be there for them for all the drama of life, for birth, for deaths, for marriages, for financial issues, health issues, marital issues. Through it all, she tried to balance and be the right mother to all of them, and also be there for her special son, Satya. And she was humble enough. She was humble enough to realize that her son, whose mom she was way bigger than her and everything else family stood for. And she reconfigured her story, her position, her standing in his life by playing the quintessential mother and the quintessential ideal devotee at the same time. Imagine the razor's edge this lady walked. She had roles to play at home as a wife, a mother, a daughter-in-law, a sister-in-law. She had to be a full-time mom to the rest of the family and her children, the siblings, the biological siblings of Bhagwan Sri Satya Sai Baba, who were like you and I. And then there was this special child. And she recognized there was something so unique about him. She had the foresight to recognize an opportunity, in my opinion, because she saw what the village lacked. She didn't go to any school of policy making, rural development, MBA, yet she realized that the village really lacked basic infrastructure. And at the right moment, she would seize the opportunity to give her beautiful son, who she knew had the power to influence and make things happen, to do something so huge. It was, she didn't say, come on, make me rich and make me build me a palace. She said, Baba, the women walk such a long way to deliver babies in advanced stages of pregnancy. We don't have even a little dispensary. Can we have a little medical camp-like thing? Now, today, you know what that wish, that noble wish of that noble lady, what it has translated into. We have the Sri Satya Sai General Hospital, we have Sri Satya Sai Super Specialty Hospitals, we have Satya Sai Mobile Hospitals, we have so many medical camps happening in India, around the world, all started because of a beautiful nudge, a beautiful divine soul gave to her divine son. And you know, these days, the buzzword is inclusion. Now, she was the pioneer of inclusion. Mother Ishwaramba adapted, you know, she was born in a very closed environment, in a remote village. She was not exposed to big cities or people of different culture. I think only when Swami took her in the car to trips to places like Bangalore or Mysore, that perhaps was her first introduction to anything outside of her little boundary, the little circle of influence into which she was born and she grew. Yet, she adapted so naturally and welcomed Swami's multicultural devotees as her own family members. And people here came from palaces, people came from royal families, from as far as parts of Gujarat, as far as Mysore and Madras Presidency. And she was able to blend with everyone because she had no airs about herself. She was simple. She had no complex. She had no arrogance. I'm the mother of this person, this young person at whose lotus feet kings and maharajas are falling. No, she also joined the line and fell at his lotus feet. Playback singers came. People with distress came to Baba. And she never demonstrated any sense of superiority or inferiority. She was just a perfect picture of love and humility and ability to get on with anyone. She didn't say, I'm exclusive, I'm special, I walk a certain way, I carry myself. She was one of them. Very few people used to realize that this simple lady is Baba's mother. And there is the story that when the first general hospital was being built, which is right behind our Ganesha. There's a little hill that goes up, and now there is a guest house called Sai Srinivas Guest House. Usually you will see primary school children coming in rows behind Ganesha. That is where there was a little hospital Swami had built, the first general hospital. When that was being built, devotees stood in rows and carried this, they passed on the sand, buckets of sand to each other as a relay race. And guess who was the first Seva, the lady who stood there to pass with everyone else? The mother of God, the mother of the avatar. She believed in this hip concept of servant leadership that I keep reading about. Management gurus talking about this concept of portraying yourself as a servant leadership. She practiced it. She didn't go to MBA school. She lived it. She was born with all this knowledge and wisdom. The supreme matriarch of the Sri Sathya Sai global movement stood shoulder to shoulder with other lady devotees to pass buckets of sand. It didn't make her a smaller person. She didn't say bring an umbrella and a chair, and you know how in movies you have director or something. She should have sat there and said the Divine Mother. No, she was the prime example of who a Seva Dal should be. This is a woman who could multitask. She could play multiple roles. She could walk a tightrope and balance everything. I want to share with you one particular story. One time on a Vaikuntha Ekadashi time, Swami decided, gave everybody a lot of Amritam, and everyone, the word had spread within, we didn't have WhatsApp and phones and such effective modes of communication at that time, but word had gone around that Vaikuntha Ekadashi will be celebrated very grandly and Swami might do something great, and he did. He created some pot full of Amrit and all the devotees were given, and there was this devotee, Srimati Vasumati auntie, the respected Srimati Vasumati auntie from a place called Iluru in Andhra Pradesh. It is in West Godavari district of AP. It is more than 400 kilometers away from Puttaparthi. And that's very far in those days with poor roads and poor communication. So when she heard, she rushed with her family. She really, really wanted to partake of this Amrit. Amrit is ambrosia, sweet nectar. So Swami had materialized the celestial Amrit for the devotees that day on this very auspicious day in the Hindu calendar called Vaikuntha Ekadashi. And she changed 4 buses trying to make it on time. But by the time she missed one connection, another connection, and she finally reached, everything here was over, kaput, done with. Everything was packed and she reached and she just dropped her luggage and she was so crestfallen and heartbroken. And she stopped in front of the room where the Divine Mother used to be. The chosen mother used to reside right behind the mandir, a very modest little room. So when Ishwaramba saw her anguish and that hopelessness all over her face, she was like, what happened? Why did you come so late? And then this lady told her that, what all happened, what a harrowing journey of 4 bus changes, so many tire punctures, so many rivers in spate and difficulties that they had to face. And eventually, by the time she reached, everything was over. Swami had retired to his room. He had gone upstairs. The mother was so compassionate. Her heart just broke at the sorrow of Auntie Vasumati, Mrs. Vasumati of Iluru, West Godavari district. She just said, you just wait. And she thought, and then she held her hand and she said, come with me to the mandir. And she held her outside, left her outside, and she went upstairs. And Swami was sitting in the dining table. He was about to start his meals. Nobody would normally enter. She just asked this lady, wait outside the door. She went inside, and it was with so much of concern in her voice. She said, Swami, Iluru Papa. Papa is the child. Iluru is the place. So this baby, this little girl, this lady, this young person from Iluru, she arrived here after changing not 4 but 7 buses. And Vasumati auntie says that she could hear this conversation happening inside, the mother advocating for her. And she said her heart was beating so hard and she was so disturbed and feeling so hopeless and sad. And she was very scared that she might get into trouble because, nobody normally went inside the room at such an hour. Then Swami asked his mother, oh, is that so? And she said she came here because she wanted the Amrit, Swami, but she got late. So, it doesn't matter. Then Swami said mischievously, so did this Iluru Papa ask you to come and recommend her situation to me? She said, no, Swami, Papa never asked me to do this. I myself took pity on her. I brought her here. Then with a bewitching twinkle in his eye, Swami said, is that the case? Oh, poor girl. Take this bottle. There's a little bit of Amritam. You go and give it to her. Then she was like, Swami, what? I have to give this Amrit to Papa? Did she come all the way changing? She was just rubbing it in. Did she come here all the way changing 7 buses to have Amrit from my hand? No, I will not do it. And she took a stand. It takes a woman of conviction to take a stand in front of God, and she had that conviction. She said, Swami, you have to give it to her. Then Swami just smiled. He saw how strong the case was in favor of Sumati auntie. So Swami just smiled, and he was so moved by this outpouring of mother's love. And after he finished his meal, he was very pleased. He said, I will give it to her myself. Then Swami came and asked her to come forward. And he said, open your mouth. So you can imagine, this lady who thought she had no hope whatsoever, she opened her mouth so big for Swami to put the last few drops of Amritam from the bottle. And then Swami, just to cut the tension, he said, hey, okay, drink the Amritam, don't swallow the bottle, because she opened her mouth so big out of stress that she was that moment. And everybody had a good laugh, and she got that ambrosia go down her throat, and that all that pain and that long journey of 7 buses, that moment became worth all the pain, and thanks to the intervention from Mother Ishwaramba. She kept doing it throughout her life, and every time Swami would say, I don't want recommendation. Has someone sent you? And she would say, no, Swami, they didn't recommend, but they came with so much of hope. They have a difficulty. Someone has a sick child. They are facing difficulty. You can help. Swami, bless them, talk to them. She never shied away from advocating for others or pleading on their behalf. Because whenever people used to go, and if somebody ignored Swami, they would go to Ishwaramba and tell. She would always, her heart would melt. She was so full of love and compassion. And I just want to share my personal thought on this. All my life, I have known Swami, like most of you have, and there are times when I pray to Swami, and somehow I find that Swami is completely giving me the royal ignore. And I know he might I shouldn't say that, he definitely has his reasons for ignoring my pleadings, my prayers, and my ask, and refusing my ask. And when I get really frustrated, I know what to do. I'm an Indian woman. I know every Indian boy is a mama's boy and listens to his mommy. So I go and complain about Swami to his mommy. And I go and pray to Mother Ishwaramba. And I tell her everything that's bothering me. And I ask her, I plead to her for intervention. I ask her for her help. And I assure you, my dear sisters and brothers, every single time she does put in a good word for me. She is my living deity. She is the goddess of many things, big and small, for me. And you may recall, even after she left the body, there is enough, Swami has spoken about how she has come to his bedroom and counseled him to be wary of some people in darshan, and spoken to him. And people who have attended to Bhagwan in person in Yajur Mandir have also attested to seeing the mother speaking to Swami at his bedside. And she left the body May 1972. And she continues to prevail in the affairs of Bhagwan Sri Satya Sai Baba, His grace and glory. So you decide who she is for you and I. Now, drawing one's power based on the virtue of who she was, not what she was born into. She made her own identity. It was not her material wealth or lack of it. It was not her formal education or lack of it, none of it. It was her conduct, her virtues, her piety, her wisdom, and most importantly, her purity, which defined her. And Swami said so. He said, good thing Ishwaramba didn't go to school. She would have only messed up her head and caused all kinds of confusing ideas. He said that in light vein, because she was so pure, unadulterated purity, organic love, no filters of judgment in how she treated anyone who came to her. Whether it was her family members with worldly problems, whether it was Swami's devotees with their problems, or whether it was people associated with the mission, for her, everybody was her own. Now, I want to fast forward to her last moments on May 6, 1972. It is said that the way we depart from the world is a reflection of the life we have led. At that day, she called out to Swami, who came straight to her from his shower. His divine tresses were dripping with water when he leaned over her. She called out 3 times, Swami, Swami, Swami. And from the divine tresses, the water that went into her mouth, from the Ganges, from Lord Shiva's tresses, that is what she sipped. Can there be a better way to leave the body? A holier, a more sublime and sacred way to make the transition from the form to the formless. Only a goddess could have earned that grace. There is a lasting fragrance of her being. Without a stylist, without an image consultant, without any social media, mainstream media, today there are books written about her. Today there are bhajans sung all over the world to glorify this lady. And today, the day when she left her body, 6th of May 1972, and for thousands of years to come, May 6th will be celebrated as Ishwaramba Day in the memory of this divine being who assumed a human form and first incarnated to become the capable vehicle that the Supreme Power chose for its descent in human form. Can you think of anyone whose passing on is celebrated globally to such an extent in so many countries for so many decades after her passing, in so many languages? Any queen, can you think of any Hollywood star, any Bollywood star, any social reformer, any politician or anyone else, any royalty that for ages to come, for centuries to come, people in Slovenia, people in Japan, people in Fiji and Australia and New Zealand, down under, people in the Americas, Latin America, Europe, Asia, everywhere, in their own language, in Russia and Hong Kong, they will sing the glory Ishwaramba Priyatanaya and all these bhajans in the glory of this woman and celebrate her descent on earth, her life, her contribution to a mission that is so dear to us. And this will outlast everything. And it tells you how short-lived the power of anything, we say digital media, social media. She had none. She didn't have a team on Instagram to see how many likes she had, how many followers she had. The number of followers of Ishwaramba will far bypass, since the day she has left or since the day she was born till now, will be 1 million times more than the top Bollywood or Hollywood celebrity or the biggest politician on earth who might have 20 million followers today. Because over the years, generations of children who have been through Bal Vikas have all celebrated her beautiful life and her glory on every Ishwaramba Day. And we will continue to do so in every Akhand Bhajan, every day in the mandir when we sing bhajans. I'm sure in your samitis and sai centers in Australia, you evoke this goddess. Verily, the goddess who is an integral key foundation of the divine drama of the Sri Satya Sai Avatar. And we know that even after her passing, she continues to counsel her son, counsel humanity, come to the rescue of beleaguered people like myself, who can vouch with confidence when I'm lacking in strength, when I have my moments of weakness, I turn to her. And when I have moments of little tiff with her son, I turn to her. She is my mediator, she is my advocate, and I'm sure she is yours too if you turn to her. So ladies, in retrospect, today, and to my brothers, ladies and gentlemen, sisters and brothers, today I ask you, as we celebrate this beautiful Ladies' Day, we must draw lessons from the beautiful, humble, understated, but so powerful and potent life of Srimati Ishwaramba, the chosen mother of the Paripurna avatar of Kali age, Bhagwan Sri Satya Sai Baba. Let us learn the power of feminine energy. Men and women all have feminine energy. We are both a blend of yin and yang, Purusha and Prakriti. So let us appeal to the kindness, the compassion, the caring in each of our personalities and take responsibility for the mother element, the feminine principle, the feminine consciousness, nurture it in ourselves and nurture it in others. Only when we do that, we will become responsible inhabitants of this planet, which has given us everything, and we continue to degrade it, continue to exploit it, continue to cause harm to it. So let us not be that rogue cell in the organism of creation and nature that is self-destructive and is causing harm to and is creating a very terminal illness in the insides, deep insides of our planet. Let us practice more responsibility. Let us nurture the goddess in each one of us, in every man and woman, Prakriti. Actually, all nature is Prakriti. There is only one Purusha, and that is God. And he came through the medium of Prakriti, who was Mother Ishwaramba. On this Ladies' Day, let us resolve that we will learn from her life, draw lessons of humility, simplicity, lack of airs, lack of arrogance and ego, I, me, title, crown. Remember, she was the supreme example of Sevadar. Let us never forget that. If the woman who gave birth to this amazing being, God incarnate, was so humble and unpretentious, what is it that we have achieved in life or done to have some sort of so much of inflated ego and sense of self-importance? I think we have so much to learn from her. And the person who will benefit the most will be each one of us, then our families and our circle of influence, our colleagues and our co-workers. In the name of the Chosen Mother, I pray on your behalf and mine that all of us grow in strength when it comes to practicing simplicity, compassion, humility, and love. Because when we have these qualities, we would march ourselves on the spiritual path and endear ourselves to her beloved son, Bhagwan Sri Satya Sai Baba. I bow at the lotus feet of Mother Ishwaramba and I seek her blessings. And I bow at the lotus feet of her world-famous, adorable, divine, resplendent son, the sun that caused that sunrise on 23rd of November, 1926. Thank you for this opportunity to share my love for Mother Ishwaramba with all of you. And thank you and Jai Sai Ram.
Sai Ram, everyone. On behalf of all the Sai devotees from Australia, I would like to take this opportunity to express our sincere appreciation to Sister Karuna for an inspiring session this evening. We are truly grateful for the time and effort you have taken to join us and share your thoughts and lovely experiences. Thank you and Jai Sai Ram.
Satya Sai Prema Avadari. Satya Sai Prema, Satya Sai Prema Avadari. Sai Ram, Sai Ram, Sai Ram bhajo. Sai Ram, Sai Ram bhajo. Sai Ram, Sai Ram, Sai Ram bhajo. Sai Ram, Sai Ram bhajo. Sadguru Sai Ram Naam bhajo. Sadguru Sai Ram Naam bhajo. Sai Ram, Sai Ram, Sai Ram 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 bhajo.
దైవ శక్తి పైన విశ్వసించాలి.
He has got to believe in the
దైవ
power of
శక్తియే
God.
మన సర్వస్వం అని భావించాలి.
He has got to think that God's power is everything for
ఏది
him.
జరిగినా దైవ ప్రసాదంగానే విశ్వసించాలి.
He should take everything as God's gift.
దుఃఖము అతని ప్రసాదమే,
He should think that even sorrow
సుఖము
is a
అతని
gift of
ప్రసాదమే,
God. Even joy is gift of God.
సుఖ దుఃఖములు రెండు కూడాను అతని ప్రసాదమే.
So sorrow and joy are the gift of God.
సుఖ దుఃఖే సమీకృత్వా లాభం లాభజయాజయ, రెండింటినీ సమత్వంగా భావించుకోవడానికి కృషి
He has
చేయాలి.
got to take both these things equally.
ఈ లౌకికమైనటువంటి ఒక భోగభాగ్యములు క్షణములో వదిలిపోతుంటాయి.
All the worldly enjoyments and pleasures are
కానీ మానవుడు
absolutely.
అహంకారం చేతను,
They are momentary, but man is so arrogant
అసూయ చేతను,
out of jealousy,
ఆడంబరముల చేతను
because of happiness.
మానవత్వాన్ని పూర్తి విశ్వసిస్తున్నాడు.
He thinks that only man and the things concerned with man
ఇది
exist.
కాదు మనము
This is not what it should be.
విశ్వసించవలసిన దైవ చింతనే,
We have got to believe
దైవ
only in
శక్తిని మాత్రమే
God.
మనం విశ్వసించాలి.
We have got to believe in God's power.
ఇదంతా కూడా నువ్వు కేవలం ఒక నెగిటివ్ అనగా ఒక జడమైనటువంటి ఒక జీవితం.
The way we think is only something insensate.
ఇలాంటి
Unfeeling.
జడమైనటువంటిది చైతన్యమైనటువంటి దైవం చేతనే సర్వ పనులు చేయగలుగుతుండాలి.
This insensate, unfeeling world is only activated by the power of
ప్రేమ
God.
స్వరూపులారా,
Embodiments of love.
నిజమైనటువంటి ప్రేమ స్వరూపిణి తల్లి మాత్రమే.
The one who is embodiment of love is the mother.
ఆ తల్లి ప్రేమను మనం పొందడానికి తగిన కృషి చేయాలి.
We have got to make all efforts to
తల్లి యొక్క
obtain.
అభిష్టం ఏమిటో గుర్తించడానికి తగిన కృషి
We
చేయాలి.
have got to find out what is the desire of the mother.
ఆమెను తృప్తిపరచడానికి తగినటువంటి ప్రయత్నం చేయాలి.
We have got to make efforts to make her
అది ఏ
happy.
పుట్టిన ప్రతి బిడ్డకు కూడా ప్రధాన కర్తవ్యము.
So that is the duty of every child that is born.
కనుక ప్రతి మానవుడు కూడాను మాతృమూర్తులను గౌరవించాలి.
So every person has got to revere the mother.
అది ఏ ప్రధానమైన పూజ,
That is the
అదే
important
నిజమైన
worship.
ఆరాధన,
That is
అదే నిజమైన
worship.
వ్రతము.
That is the
అనాది కాలం
ritual.
నుండి భారతీయులు చేస్తూ వచ్చినటువంటిది తపస్సు ఇదియే.
This is a penance with the Bharatiyas have
ఈ
been
తపస్సు
doing.
నుండి మన యొక్క మాధుర్యమైనటువంటి యొక్క జీవితం ఏమిటి ఉంటున్నది.
Because of this penance, the whole life is permeated by the principle of love.
జీవితం మధురమైనటువంటి జీవితము.
The life itself is full of love.
వచనం మధురం, శ్రవణం మధురం, హృదయం మధురం, హస్తం మధురం, సర్వం మధురం, మధురాధిపతి మధురం 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 మధురం.
God who is full of love, seeing is love, hearing is love, talking is love, his hands are love.
మన
Every
సర్వాంగములు
aspect
కూడా
of-
నువ్వు మధురమైన మార్గంలో ప్రవేశపెట్టాలి.
So all our organs of the body, we have got to use them for the sake
అది
of
ఏ
love.
నిజమైనటువంటి మాధవత్వానికి తగినటువంటి గుర్తులు.
That is the sign of God.
स्वामी सत्य साई हरे भक्त जना संरक्षक भक्त जना संरक्षक हरि महेश्वरा ओम जय जगदीश हरे शशिवदना श्रीकरा सरला प्राण समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः जय बोलो भगवान श्री सत्य साई बाबा जी की जय।
Sairam all. Just a reminder, we are now live on YouTube and Facebook. You can search on YouTube for Sai Organisation of Australia. Please subscribe to the channel and click on the bell icon to receive updates and reminders of our upcoming inspirational programs. On Facebook, please search for Sai Organisation of Australia and like and follow our account. Please visit our website on sai.org.au to keep updated with upcoming programs in the 96 Days devotional offerings, news of our service activities, and inspirational updates.